Unit 3. State and Commercial Banks Loans. Business activities of entrepreneurs can be indirectly financed through HBOR, Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and commercial banks. When talking about HBOR, it is a state-owned bank that is 100% owned by the Republic of Croatia, which has a business portfolio that is primarily intended for the economic growth of all companies in the Republic of Croatia. In relation to investment loans through commercial banks, the entrepreneurial initiative is funded under the market conditions. For example, in the Republic of Croatia, commercial banks offer to entrepreneurs the following bank loans: long-term investment loans, leasing financing and special lending programs. For each of the above-mentioned funding program, the entrepreneur must contact the business bank directly and to discuss the loan terms with it. However, commercial banks' special financing programs are additional services from their business portfolio, and are related to the realization of cooperation with Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development, international financial institutions, ministries and local and regional self-government units, Croatian Agency for SMEs, Innovation and Investments, HAMAG-BICRO, ESIF Loans for Growth and Development. HBOR is a development and export bank established with the purpose of lending the reconstruction and development of the Croatian economy. It is a bank whose founder and the 100% owner is the Republic of Croatia. In its business portfolio, the bank offers to entrepreneurs various services and loans with one of the most favorable interest rates in the Republic of Croatia, regardless of whether the entrepreneur is looking for an additional financing of his investment, he is in the need for working capital, or he is in the restructuring process or in an investment process co-financed from European Union funds. Through the Croatian Bank for Reconstruction and Development, entrepreneurs have access to the following programs. Lending through commercial banks. Documented loan applications are submitted to business banks that have contracted with HBOR to implement the program. The list of commercial banks is an integral part of the loan program. Depending on the decision of the competent authority of HBOR, a commercial bank and HBOR conclude a loan agreement for the end user. Based on the loan agreement between the commercial bank and HBOR, the commercial bank concludes a loan agreement with the end user of the loan. The banks participating in the above-mentioned program are: direct lending. Documented loan applications are sent directly to HBOR. Depending on the decision of the competent authority of HBOR, a loan agreement is concluded directly with the loan user. Depending on the available funds of the HBOR or on the deadlines of the loan method, including the related contractual documentation, the program may also be realized as risk-sharing model lending. Documented loan applications are submitted to commercial banks with which HBOR has also contracted to cooperate on the implementation of the risk-sharing program. The term, purpose and the method of lending, as well as other specific provisions of lending with risk-sharing with commercial banks, are prescribed in the framework of the implementation and contractual documentation. Information on the risk-sharing model with the list of commercial banks is available on the HBOR website. Investment HBOR loans are classified according to the following needs of entrepreneurs. Development of small and medium enterprises. Amount of loan, up to 8 million kunas. Repayment period, up to 12 years. ESIF loans for growth and development. Loan amount, up to 3 million euros, 10 million euros for the tourism sector. Repayment period, up to 12 years, up to 17 years for the tourism sector. Tourism. Loan amount, the lowest 80,000 kunis, the highest is not limited. Repayment period, up to 17 years. Agriculture. Loan amount, the lowest amount is 80,000 kunis, and the highest is 3.5 million kunas. Repayment period, up to 14 years. ESIF loans for energy efficiency. Amount of loan, the lowest amount is 100,000 kunas and the highest is 60 million kunas. Environmental protection. Amount of loan, the lowest amount is 100,000 kunis, and the maximum is not limited. Repayment period, up to 14 years. Economy. Loan amount, The lowest 700,000 kunis, the highest is not limited. Repayment period, up to 12 years. New production. Loan amount, not limited. Repayment period, up to 14 years. Infrastructure. Loan amount, not limited. Repayment period, up to 15 years. Shipping. Loan amount, not limited. Repayment period, up to 12 years. Energy reconstruction of buildings. Loan amount, not limited. Repayment period, up to 12 years. Repayment period, up to 14 years. The following is an example of the documentation requested from entrepreneurs for the purpose of granting the loan. This example refers to the program of lending to small and medium-sized enterprises. The applicant submits the investment documentation with the standardized application form for a loan to HBOR. Investment program, for investments above 700,000 kuna, or a business plan, for investments up to 700,000 kuna. Contracts, pre-contract letters of intent on business cooperation, product placement, etc. Cost statements, offers, interim invoices, according to the investment structure. Technical documentation with relevant construction reconstruction permits. Documentation on other sources of funding. In addition, companies also submit the following documentation. Court register extract, with the latest revisions included. The founding acts of the company, articles of association of a limited liability company, the statute of a joint stock company, last consolidated text. Notification of classification of a business entity according to the NKD, National Classification of Activities. Solvency information, bond to sold to, not older than 30 days from the date of submission of the application. Creditworthiness information, bond 1. Annual financial statements for the past 2 business years compiled in accordance with the Accounting Act, balance sheet, POD bill form, income statement, POD RDG form, additional data, POD form and, where applicable, cash flow statement, POD form NTD and POD NTI, notes to the financial statements. Quarterly financial statements, the balance sheet and income statement, GFI POD form at the end of the last quarter, if required. Note, solvency, creditworthiness, annual and quarterly financial statements are provided if they are available in respect of the period of the prior business. SPNFT questionnaires, OBR, questionnaire for legal entities, OBR, information on real owners of the applicant's party for the loan, OBR, Table 1 and 2 attachment to the data on real owners of the applicant's party, for companies, OBR, questionnaire for foreign politically exposed persons. Every entrepreneur or investor is recommended, regardless of whether or not the bank requires a document as a mandatory documentation, to make a business plan so that the entrepreneur in one place can have all the information necessary for his business. The business plan is mostly an integral part of the loan documentation and is particularly required for beginner entrepreneurs or new clients of the bank, financially weak business entities and certain targeted groups of entrepreneurs such as young entrepreneurs. When seeking a loan application, the entrepreneur or investor must understand the creditor's views. In the first place, the creditor is interested in data on the entrepreneur's former business, that is owners and indebtedness, on the relationship between personal property and liabilities value, on the creditworthiness of the owner and on his timeliness in settling the obligations. On the other hand, the entrepreneur must understand the financial statements, objectively evaluate the good and bad sides of the loan and, if any, explain the negative business indicators. When introducing a business idea to a creditor, first you need to present yourself as an investor and then the investment. The presentation should be structured in a summarized, clear and precise way, while you should be prepared for further explanations and creditors' questions. When negotiating with the creditors, it is certainly necessary to provide them with the required information and to demonstrate their willingness to cooperate, as well as to understand the creditor as a partner in the realization of a business venture.